Hello class, welcome to our lesson today in section 5.3, the second half of writing proportions. Today when we look at our questions, there's going to be a few ways that you can solve some of these things. I'm going to encourage you to look at both versions and maybe offer some suggestions about what might be helpful long term in your math classes. First thing I want to look at is a question that many of you are struggling with from one of the previous tests. This question deals with the recipe idea, so figuring out how much is in the recipe and then how many do you need to make. So this says for every 4 2/3 cups of yellow, 5/6 of cups of red paint is used. First step is to add those together. You should get 5.5. Okay, 4 2/3 plus 5/6, common denominator 6. You get 4 and 9/6, which becomes 5.5. Then because you need to make 99 cups total, you got to take 99 divided by how much your recipe is, which is 5.5. And you will end up getting 18. There's a couple different ways you can do that. You can make them fractions and proper, decimal and divide. Okay, either way you should get 18. That means you need 18 recipes worth of each paint. Okay, so each recipe, 4 2/3 times 18, and then 5/6 times 18, will get you to the final answer of how many yellow cups and red cups you need. A lot of people are just trying to multiply by 99 on both cases, but that's not going to get you 99 cups total at the end. So you got to make sure that you're going at it from a slightly different perspective in order to find that answer. Okay, proportions. Proportions, remember, are two ratios or rates set equal to one another. Typically, they can be written vertically. So like this one here is two ringtones, for $6 and equals 3 ringtones for X. You could also write the variables kind of the other way. And 2 ringtones to 3 ringtones is the same as 6 to X dollars. Either way, you have to find a strategy to be able to find the answer to these questions. You also want to make sure that you can set up a proportion from a word problem or a table like this. And then we can work on how to solve those things. Okay, there's two methods that you can use to find these answers. One method is find a relationship from left to right, that's multiplication or division, or vertically, same thing. So 5 times 4 is 20, so 8 times 4 would be 32. That idea would work great. Okay, it will work great if the number divides nicely and you can find it fairly quickly. Your other option, which I would suggest everyone needs to try a few questions with cross multiplying or cross products, your book also calls it. Cross multiplying is going to be your kind of avenue of choice later on because when questions become more challenging, it's going to be harder to do this first method. Okay, so cross multiply as a recap, remember, is 5 times d equals 8 times 20. 8 times 20 is 160. You divide by 5 on both sides, and you get d equals 32. It gives the same answer, and you say, well, doesn't that take a little bit longer? Yeah, it may take a little bit longer to find the answer, but overall, it will be easier long term because there's not as much guessing. It'll get an exact answer every time. Okay, cross multiplying. If you're looking for, well, what's one thing I could do on all questions to make it work? Cross multiplying is the way to go. Next question, z over 7 equals 10 over 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7, so 10 divided by 2 would be 5. If you cross multiply, you get 14 equals 7 times 10. You divide by 14 and you get z equals 5. Notice both methods work, and if everyone needs to know how to cross multiply. So you're going to be asked to explain things with cross multiplying regardless of what option you pick. You have to make sure you explain your answers at all times, show your work in order to find those solutions. Okay, really what I have here is just a bunch of example questions. First one, I'm just going to do the same idea as the last slide. 33 divided by 3 is 11, so 51 divided by 3. Remember, 3 times 17 is 51, so that's something to think about there. Second one, cross multiply. 21 times 16 equals 24x, so you divide both sides by 24. 336 divided by 24 would be 14. Once you get into the habit of cross multiplying, it becomes easier and easier and easier to solve. And again, the suggestion is that you're able to do that in all cases, so make sure you know how to cross multiply these situations. Next one, 6 times 2.5 is 15. If you didn't know how to find that, you could take 15 divided by 6 and get 2.5. You could have also simplified this down to 1/3. That's another option. And then you multiply across to get the answer of 45. In the next one, I'm going to choose to cross multiply here. 3 times 12 is 36, equals 7 times x. I divide by 7 to get x by itself. Now this is where the cross multiplying idea may become more helpful. The answer is 36 divided by 7. That's the answer. but that's not a nice number that you like a nice integer answer. So 36 over 7 is the answer. All you have to do is make that a mixed number and you're done. You can be done at that moment. You don't have to make it a decimal necessarily in order to find that solution. So keep that in mind as you're dealing with these proportion questions. Okay, the next one is the idea of a recipe. This is the recipe right here. Notice it's 1.5 cups of black beans, and I'm comparing with tomatoes. So it's 1.5 cups of beans for every 1 tomato. The new recipe has 6 cups of black beans. How many tomatoes? Now notice here it says to write a proportion. So I'm glad you know the answers for tomatoes, but the question really is not asking you about the tomatoes to begin with. It's write a proportion to figure out how many tomatoes, and that's the skill that we need to work on. I'm glad you can find the answers for, but we need to make sure that we're practicing how to set up the proportion in order to find that answer. You could always cross multiply this. It'd be 6 times 1 equals 1.5 times x, and you would get 4 tomatoes. You could also do 1.5 times 4 is 6, and 1 times 4 is 4. Next question deals with capacity of the baseball game. So the stadium holds 45,000. That's the total, but I don't know how many are season ticket holders. So that would be x over 45,000. And the ratio of season ticket holders to total is 1 to 3. And so 1 over 3 would equal x over 45,000. I'm going to show cross multiplying here to make sure we practice it. 1 times 45,000, which is 45,000, equals 3x divided by 3, and you get 15,000. Obviously, you can find that in different ways, but what's important here is you have got to show your work about how you solve every question, which probably means you need to write the proportion on all of them and then show the step that you're doing in order to solve for the answer. Okay, your homework, 1 through 3, 9 through 21 odd, and 25. Let's recap again. You should know how to cross multiply. You can use other methods if you want, but no matter what you do, you have to show your work, and we're going to be looking for that on our end to make sure that you are showing your work. And everyone needs to try cross multiplying on a few questions. I'm not saying you have to try it on all of them, but everyone should at least try cross multiplying on a few questions to make sure they understand the process, because you're going to be asked to do that as time moves forward. Have a good day, everyone.